All right, everybody. Welcome to session 0 of our new Providence mini campaign. I'm joined here by 3 of my players. One of them could not make it tonight. That'd be Dan. I'll be talking with him one-on-one though. Before we start, let's just go ahead and do player introduction. Just say your name, plug whatever you want to, and then we'll just slip right into the session 0. So we'll start with Cory and we'll end with Kiel.
Yo, what up? I'm Cory. I typically play a character that does not exist in this setting. R.I.P. the Goliaths. Nothing to plug. I'm just here for good times with my boy Jeff Doty.
Remember this, Kiel. We are not his boys. He stated that very explicitly.
I didn't know Jeff was coming, and then I saw that he was in, and I was like, Jeff's in here? Because he's not in the Facebook chat. And I was like, yeah, here we go.
I actually am in the Facebook chat now. Tyler added me earlier today, so sorry. Yeah, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Encounterbalance, where I run my own stuff. I also do a podcast called The Dudes of Yore with Jeremy Lilly and Chad Nick, and then sometimes other people. So feel free to check those out. Yeah, looking forward to it. Been a long time Providence player. So excited to see. I think this is the first campaign though that I'll be doing in it, so it'll be cool to play a more long-standing thing rather than one-offs.
Yeah, boy. Jeff was one of the original Providencers, man. First game, first session ever. It was a blast. Go check it out. It was called Trouble in Providence. Kiel.
Hey y'all, my name's Kiel. I'm stoked to be here. I've played with these 3 dudes before, but it'll be my first time playing in Providence, and I cannot wait. And looking forward to playing with the other guys as well who will be in this campaign. Yeah, looking forward to rolling up some characters here and then getting stuck into it in the next couple of weeks. I've got a nice clean slate YouTube channel. I've been saying that for far too many weeks now, but I'll be starting to get some content up there soon. And yeah, keen.
I actually did not know you had a channel, so make sure you give me the link afterwards, and I'll include it in the description of this video and every single one for the games. All right, as always, you know me. If you're watching this, it's on my channel, obviously. I'm DM Ty, Tyler Hurst, channel on a roll, ROE like role play. Let's go ahead and get started then. Shoot 'em up. Since we're going into Providence, one of the first things I believe is fundamental in running a good campaign or mini campaign is figuring out what kind of story we want to tell. So we've been talking about it a bit in the chat. I'm just going to turn it over to you guys. Throw some ideas out. Let's talk about it. Are you guys feeling like playing vigilantes? Do you guys want to play? I saw that somebody posted they thought of maybe playing like the framed type thing. You guys have been framed and are going to prison, but you guys got to figure it out. What are you guys looking to play? What do you guys want to play? Let's just open up discussion right now.
Well, I'm always a fan in. Go, you go.
I was going to say when someone threw out that suggestion for us being framed and sort of dealing with that as the starting point, that sounded pretty interesting. Did you have another idea, Jeff?
Yeah, I was just going to say like one of the things in Providence that always is kind of one of the interesting things for me is that balance between like the law and chaos of it. This kind of rogue legal system that they had out there, which is kind of a strange mixture of things. Definitely, like I know for when it comes to characters, I'll definitely be interested in playing someone associated in some way with that kind of law and outlaw struggle. And that kind of theme in Providence is one of the ones that interests me most, but I'm pretty open as far as all things.
Yeah, I'm pretty open to as far as like things I was kind of like leaning towards, and I think it's neat, like all of the like exactly like diving in and finding out how deep the rabbit hole goes on like magic and shamanistic and rituals and that kind of stuff in the setting seems interesting to me. So that was something that I was kind of thinking about and like drawn to when I was reading the docs as far as like characters and backgrounds and stuff.
Okay,
so is magic outlawed?
Magic.
Pardon?
Okay, so think about it this way. There's a lot of superstition surrounding magic. In the north, kind of northern Providence is very lawless. There's like the hold that the peacekeepers have on the law is very tenuous in the north. Think of it kind of like what's the name of that area? In the Wild West. There was like an area in the Wild West that was considered more like crazy than anywhere else. I think it was like the southern, like southeast of like, I think it was like there was like an Indian, like a Native American nation in this area that they couldn't really control. So it became like the Wild West, whereas like everywhere else is the Wild West. Think of that as the North. It's a little bit more wild than everywhere else. You know, Central Providence is like, that's the base of peacekeeper operations. It is more governed, it is more controlled, trade is safer, the roads are safer, everything is safer, but it's more locked down. So there, yes, there would be quite a bit of like, oh, they use magic, like, or are they using magic? Is she a witch? Like that's like where Salem might happen. And in the South, it is a lot more like, think of it like kind of like the people down there are just as superstitious, but they're more accepting, like kind of like southern US, like southeastern US, where everything there, like it's a little weird. People there are might be like a little less informed as to what's happening in the rest of the world, so they're more accepting of what the weird things that happen around them are. That's the best way I can describe it. So it just varies in degrees as to what part of Providence you're in. So if I understand correctly, Jeff kind of likes the idea of investigating where law and chaos, like that gray border, kind of where that plays into each other, kind of like vigilantism. Like that's the gray border.
Yeah, that does sound pretty fun.
Yeah. So I'm getting that. I'm getting kind of the idea of like the Framed type thing, where you guys have been arrested for a crime you didn't necessarily commit. Maybe you were a part of it in some small way, but you didn't know, something along those lines. So how about this? I'm going to pitch this to you guys. What if we did kind of like, let's kind of meld the two together. You guys have been framed, and that'll be kind of taken to place in the very first session. Like you guys will have already been framed and all that stuff. But you guys have to kind of push the boundaries of law to clear your name. Like you're given the opportunity to clear your name, but it's gonna require that you probably break some laws, fire some bullets, and crack some heads.
Yeah, I like that. That sounds good.
I'm feeling a very hang 'em high Clint Eastwood type story. Do you guys have seen Hang 'em High? Basically, Hang 'em High is about this guy who is left for dead, found by a city. They bring him back, he becomes their sheriff, and then he goes on a path of revenge. So basically, along those lines. Except for the Left 4 Dead part. Well, maybe Left 4 Dead. I don't know. It's up to you guys. What do you think?
That sounds killer. Yeah, man. Meaty hook.
Okay.
Yeah, the one thing that I will say is that it's always, whenever you have like starting out on like the completely downtrodden thing, it does bring up the idea of like, especially since it's a play test, of the equipment and things like that, of like, are we going to start out with no gear and we have to like find things to scavenge to get by, or are we going to still be fully,
I mean,
starting gear made?
That's the thing too, is we don't necessarily have to be arrested. We could just be wanted, like, you know, like posters out and everything.
Yeah. Like maybe we're not like literally going to be in a prison cell to start, stripped of everything, but you know, we show up in a town and we see posters with our faces on them. We're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like women and children run in fear. We're like, oh shit.
Yeah, so we can discuss that more, how we kind of wanted to start. But just keep in mind, if we do choose to do the start where you guys are literally in a prison carriage going towards Nassau, that I will provide in a way that you guys get your gear, that there will be a way for you to escape. I'm not going to just leave you hanging about that stuff and just throw you in prison. Like, that would take forever to figure out that story. So there will be, I do like the idea of an in media race. Like, stuff has already happened. And that's part of your guys' backstory, how you guys ended up here. But what do you guys think?
I dig it.
Right.
Sounds good.
So here sounds good. What about you, Kiel and Jeff?
Yeah, keen, man. I think that sounds real good. Yeah.
Okay. All
So I
right,
guess
cool.
is the next step figuring out how we know each other, or where do we go from here?
Well,
I've never
let's
actually
figure out-
done a session 0, so this is all new to me.
Yeah, well, actually, I have on the document. We're gonna figure out where we want to tell the story. Do you guys want to be from the lawless north? Do you guys want to be in central Providence, where it's a little bit more tighter? Do you want to be in the south, where it's a little bit more? It's more superstitious, but yet more accepting in a weird way. Think of the south as kind of like the Bayou. Like there are like weird, like voodoo magicians, but people just kind of like, okay, yeah, like it's a voodoo magician. Like or yeah, it's just a fortune teller. Like it's weird. It's weird, but it's not like, oh, magic. Like, where do you guys want to tell the story?
I think maybe central or southern sounds cool, especially if we're wanting to dip into or delve a bit into the mysticism and magic sort of side of things. As long as that wouldn't be out of place telling this kind of story. Like if the law and order side of things down there is still appropriate enough for this kind of thing to happen. Because I saw in the north there's like more of a sort of mafia family, I think you were saying, rather than like it's a bit more rogue, you said. But central and southern is more like the actual peacekeepers, is it?
Yeah, so the peacekeepers have a presence everywhere. Their presence is just stronger in the central part of Providence and in the southern part of Providence. But you'll see the law. It's interesting because you'll see the law change from region to region. Like how it's approached and handled is different from region to region.
Well, the first thing that came to my mind, and I'm flexible in all this, is like maybe it's like central, but like on the north side, kind of where the rope starts to get frayed a little bit.
That's like exactly what I was thinking.
Total chaos, but it's not like total central either. We're kind of like on that border where you go. The city north is just like batshit crazy, and the city south is like central. But we're kind of in that weird gray area where
it's like ripe for corruptions
both,
or people trying to get footholds and that. Yeah.
Okay.
That sounds cool.
So you like the idea of kind of like straddling the border, like border war type stuff, where people are fighting over control of these towns to expand their like influence.
Yeah, so it's like the peacekeepers want to like maintain this kind of safe area going into the central area, where it's like if you go too north, it gets too crazy, and then the peacekeepers are on the losing side. But they obviously want to be able to push the law further, so they're going to want to do that. But also the chaos from the north is going to kind of bleed down south.
Yeah.
So I imagine there's kind of a place where the two intersect. That's kind of more of a conflict between seeing is the law going to be prevalent or is chaos going to be prevalent.
So you're thinking
like, it's more solved north or south. Like north, it's like chaos is king. South, law is king. But there's got to be a point where it's undecided, where it's contested. I think
so you're thinking
like that would be interesting. Yeah,
you're kind of thinking of like a Tombstone type thing. Have you seen the movie Tombstone? It's about the Earp brothers and all them. Okay, so Tombstone is kind of like it's where the biggest like shootout of the West happened. The Earp brothers and Doc Holliday versus like these four like mining kind of like rebel like outlaw people. No, it's all good, dude. But Tombstone is kind of like it's like the place where law and chaos kind of like clash, where they crash into each other. So kind of like that idea then is what you're looking for. It's kind of like a Tombstone type feel.
Yeah, basically.
Okay, cool.
And then there's still kind of room for some of that mysticism stuff to come in, and it's kind of because that's going to be everywhere, I think, as you were saying. Because if we are interested in that and it's not in the northern area, then like I think going further south is going to be fine because that seems like something that's interesting to a lot of us. But if it's still going to be present up in that region, then I think definitely that would at least be where I'd prefer.
Okay, cool, perfect. So if you guys are all in agreement about that, I'm totally fine with that. I like that idea, like a border town where things like it could have been the peacekeepers covering up some of their own tracks and blaming it on you, something that happened, or it could have been one of these mafia families using you guys as a scapegoat for their underhanded deals. I like that a lot. That's a good idea. Okay, I'm going to include kind of Tombstone next to this in a second. Okay. All right. So the next part that we're kind of going to slip into right away now that we figured out where and kind of what kind of story we want to tell, is how exactly do we want to tell it? And what these are for me is these are the pillars that are going to be for this mini campaign. Each of you is going to add one. It can be anything like you talked about, like you want to see magic. Right? We've already talked about this a little bit before. Jeff kind of mentioned that he wants to see kind of the gray line between law and chaos. So these are individual kind of things that you want to have be a big part of this mini campaign. What are the pillars you want the mini campaign to sit upon, or to rest, like to fall upon, or to rest upon? So we'll go ahead and start with Kiel, and make our way to Jeff and then to Cory. So let's just hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah, I like the sort of focus on the desperation for resources. Like whether it's water or wealth. I mean, water is basically wealth these days, with the sun black and the ocean receding and the world dying and everything drying up more year by year. So, yeah, I think I want that to sort of come through as part of it. And I'm yeah, that's sort of my second pick. My first one, Jeff already sort of touched on with that. The law versus chaos thing, which yeah, awesome, stoked having that in there. So I think that's my pick there, which I can think on and flesh out a bit more what I mean by that if you like. But I mean, yeah, maybe that's tied to sort of the framing or the thing that went wrong.
Yeah, for sure. I like that desperation for resources. I love playing on that because I can see how on border towns like this that don't have an oasis, like how important it would be to control the water that comes in. I think that'd be huge for farming, for the different like the bordellos and stuff, and all the different like saloons and where they're getting their food from. I could see how that would be a big point of interest for the mafia families and the peacekeepers. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, big motivator on both sides.
Yeah, no, if you think about more that you want to add to this, just tell me or pipe up and I'll add it onto this list as well. If you think about more stuff you'd like to see play into this desperation for resources. Okay, Jeff.
Yeah, I want to see questionable legal and moral situations, like where the application of the law is like the wrong thing morally, or vice versa, where it's like you have to decide, do you want to do the legal thing, the thing that should be enforced by following the rules, or do you want to do like the good thing, where like the league acting in a legal manner might require you to do bad stuff, or vice versa. Like I really want to see tough decisions where kind of the morals and the law is put into question, and we have to decide which way we're going to look at it.
So if I understand correctly, you want to have tough decisions where the law and moral like goodness are pitted against each other. Like, is it better to always sustain the law, which is its own form of anarchy, or is it better to make the right decision, or the decision that you're going to be able to live with, basically?
Yeah, and it doesn't even have to just be like moral goodness, but also like self-interest. I think is like a big part of Providence too. Of like, do you kind of do things for your own way, or do you do things like the legal way?
So kind of like this
moral decisions in general, yeah. And legal.
So kind of like the situation where you like the bad guy's at your mercy essentially, but if you turn him in with good like time in jail and with the money that he has access to, he's gonna be out in like no time at all, essentially. And so like, do you put him down now and like save the pain he's gonna cause, or let him basically
or like
go?
If the corrupt governor tells you to do something and he's been paid off for it, do you listen to him? Like that kind of stuff where like we have corrupt law but also good law, and corrupt evil and also corrupt lawlessness and good lawlessness. Like there's a lot of room for weird gray lines between all that of like, and I think navigating that, especially with a varied party, which I'm sure we will have a varied party in terms of belief with that kind of stuff, could drive a lot of interesting conflict and character motivation.
Okay,
I'm all in for that, man. Yeah,
I dig it. That's good. The fraying rope of law. Like, do you save yourself or save other people? Essentially, yeah, I dig it. I like it. Okay, Cory.
So I think it's kind of almost baked into the session in some ways, but like I guess I would call it like factional tension. So like, you know, in all of these border towns, there's going to be, of course, between like social class and wealth, like have-nots and haves, or even like ideology, the people who are doing good versus people doing selfish acts or evil. And then, of course, like the law versus chaos dichotomy. So like lots of like tension. And so our group is going to have to either like pick a side or like try and thread the line between both. Like we'll have to kind of make decisions on that, and also live in a world that has that kind of tension.
Okay. Yeah, okay, all right, I like it. So basically what I put for yours, what you're kind of talking about is politique real, which is kind of like power playing, like these two, like multiple factions, you know, duking it out over an important resource, and you guys having to choose a side and making the sway and having to live with whatever consequences come based off your decisions.
Yeah, and that even kind of fits into that law versus chaos thing. It's like in order to make those decisions, sometimes we might have to do bad things or something else. You know, I don't know how that'll kind of
like if
weave together.
If like the group in like if the group who has control over the water asks you to do something that's against the law, like you got to pick a side, and that side has consequences, but also motivations.
Oh
Okay.
man, this is gonna be good.
Okay, cool. All right,
So
I like that.
If I can add, I don't know if we can add more than one, or if we want to like just keep it with that.
Well, I'm
one
interested
thing
to hear
since-
what you have to say, and then I'll kind of just decide if that's
yeah.
kind of
So just kind of because a couple people have mentioned it, I'd like to see like ambiguous weird shit, like stuff that might be magic, but also like could just be, you know, shady activity. And the kind of the mixture of like superstition, like not knowing whether or not you're being superstitious or you're being right, and kind of seeing that come into line where it's like not necessarily all overt, where you go down to the shaman, but you know, maybe you got cursed by a witch, but maybe you're just unlucky and you're superstitious, and it's hard to figure out.
Okay. Yeah, I like that. The ambiguous weirdness, Cory. Get out of here with your Goliath crap. At least I know which one Cory is. He's the freaking anonymous grizzly. Yeah, so get out of here with the anyway, so yeah, the ambiguous weirdness. I like that. I like the idea of, you know, can you like I imagine that some people kind of use this as like a fear factor type thing. Like, oh, if you don't do this, I'm gonna curse you. And they're like, wait, is this person actually a witch or not? Type thing. Like, are they just using cultural stereotypes and fear to like get what they want? Or is it actually, should I actually fear this person?
Yeah, and maybe they even do think that they're a witch, but they're not. Like that, you could like cast the spells and do the things, but you know, it might not actually do anything. But they could try anyways because they do think that it actually is real and works. And it is real and works, but not the way that they do it. Yeah, yeah. As Cory says, like there are people who try to like cast spells in our world too, which is
Like
depending on your
Wiccans?
beliefs, may be dubious. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Hey,
But
it works pretty
when you
much
have
in
like like a highly superstitious culture, but where also magic is real, I think is like a really interesting blend of like you're gonna have people lying on both sides who think they're witches, but they're not, or they are, but they try to blend in, or they are overtly witches, but people, you know, there's a lot of room for ambiguity that I think is interesting.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I like that. I'll make that one into mine. I'm going to leave the last one for Dan to add, but I like that. So we've got desperation for resources, kind of how that plays into the ideology and the politics of Providence, especially in the town you guys are playing in. Questionable legal and moral situations where you guys have to make a decision and live with that decision. You guys have to be able to make hard decisions and either make difficult, corrupt decisions or the right decision, which isn't always right, which is just following the law, which is told to you is right. Factional tension, politique real, watching these power plays between different factions and participating in them as they're kind of trying to essentially control the town or wherever we're playing, whatever we're doing. Ambiguous weirdness, where you can't really identify whether or not it's actually supernatural but it could be, and how that relates to Providence and how people use stereotypes and these ideas to get influence or to inspire fear, whether they can or can't actually use magic. Okay, I think that's a pretty good list. I think that's really good. So let's go ahead and slip down into characters. I know that some of you guys have been thinking about it. We've been talking about it. Let's go ahead and start with Cory, because I think I've heard the most from Cory about his idea so far, about what he kind of wants to play. What are you looking at? Are you planning on playing one of the Providence classes or special archetypes that I have? Do you have a race yet? What are you thinking?
Yeah, so as I was reading through the playtest doc, I definitely kind of gravitated towards the Biol. Or how do you pronounce it? Biol or Biol?
Biol.
Biol. Okay. So yeah, I gravitated towards them just because of they're integrated into the society, but they're also kind of separate. So there's already like some built-in kind of tension there with certain peoples. They also kind of have access to everything. They're like, it's almost like the half-elf of this kind of setting, for lack of a better comparison.
Mm-hmm.
But I was digging the spirit site and all the stuff in there about like the extra kind of weird shit going on, like the weirdness that Jeff was talking about. So the original concept I had like kind of come up with in isolation was like a character who has some kind of motivation where he's basically using that spirit site in order to find those rogue I can't forget they're called now. It's spirits. It's something else from like the below and the above that are like taking over.
The Lod.
Yeah, they're taking over people's bodies and stuff. And so he's made some kind of pact in order to have a power to like rip them out of that creature. And so it'll definitely be a be all, and I'll probably do pugilist as kind of like a more burly kind of get in there kind of guy. But as far as that aspect of like, the spirits and stuff, if it doesn't fit the setting, then I won't do it for the character.
No, that perfectly fits the setting. Actually, were you still planning on being a pugilist?
Yeah.
Okay, this is why I love that. Think of the Biol kind of along these lines. They are integrated into society, but they are their own people still. They live among Providencers, but they don't want to be a Providencer. So you being a pugilist, a Biol pugilist, there's going to be a lot of tension immediately between you and your kin as well, because that is you integrating, like beyond being just a Biol. Because think about it this way: pugilists are like fighting in rings for the amusement of other people. Like they are showmen, like show fighters. What is it called? What is the word? Oh my gosh! Because they weren't like gladiators, but they throw you on like a pit with like dirt, and you beat each other to hell. Like you beat the crap out of each other. So like think about it that way. Is like you are integrating in that way by becoming a pugilist, but you're also making yourself more able because you're going to be mildly famous as well for being a pugilist. Like they broadcast these fights like the Super Bowl. Like they'll say everything that's happening in the fight over a radio to everybody else who's listening anywhere in Providence. So you will be mildly famous.
Oh, dope! That's sick.
So think about it that way: is you are integrating. So there's going to be tension there between you being a Biol and being a pugilist. But it's going to be very interesting for this too, because you're also interacting. You're fulfilling your pact as a shaman too, by sending these spirits away. That's what shamans do.
Mm-hmm.
So like basically you're completing your role, but in a way that other people are going to judge you for, which I think is very interesting.
Perfect.
So are you still thinking of pugilist?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to leave you to stew on that for a little bit, and I want you to come up with like 3 points for how your character interacts with the world. Like a bit about who they are that I'm going to include on here that everybody's going to know about you. Like maybe your fighter name might be one of those things. Like what will people know you by when they see that you're a Biol pugilist? Like they're like, oh, you're the so and so. You're the I don't know the tribal kid or something like that. Like some sort of like name for you. Like think about that.
Got it.
Okay, we're gonna jump over to Jeff or Kiel. Who wants to go next?
To the surprise of literally nobody, I'm gonna be a Providencer.
Okay, do you know if you're gonna be central, northern, or southern?
Central. Like I think I've probably come up towards this kind of north border area. And I'll probably take the Peacekeeper background. That's something that's always been really interesting to me, and I think will give us like a solid, at least one character who's gonna have a solid, grounded, um, dog in the fight of the law versus chaos. Of obviously, you're gonna know which side that I'm on. We're kind of navigating this more lawless place than I'm used to as a peacekeeper.
Okay.
Something that I'm interested in.
Okay, cool. Do you have any idea of class yet? Also, Cory, start thinking about background too, because I'd like to know that before session, obviously.
So not totally on specific yet, but definitely focused on the gunsmanship of it. So fighter, something like that. It's going to be very combat, gunslinger focused kind of thing.
Okay, so the only fighter archetype I have available for Providence specifically is the shootist, which is essentially, I mean, just think of it as like Clint Eastwood, like the typical, like very skilled gunfighter, like who has made the gun his life. You don't have to do that. You could do Battle Master. I had Connor last campaign, mini campaign, playing Arcane Archer, but he had the Pact Maker, which he made a pact with the demon. And his gun was what allowed him to make do those special shots as an Arcane Archer. So I'm flexible with that.
Well, if there's a gun focused archetype that you have or will make, then that's perfect. I want to be the cowboy lawman with the gun. Like that's kind of right where I like to slot in for Providence.
Yeah, that would be the shootist then. That's going to be the shootist. Okay, so we've got the Central Providencer, like kind of like northern border. Peacekeeper, shootist. So start filling in those 3 slots for your character. 3 things that about how you interact with the world, what distinguishes you from other Providencers and from the world. And then we're gonna go ahead and switch over to Kiel real quickly then.
So yeah, from earlier on, I was thinking class-wise was the first thing that sort of grabbed me. I was keen on the hustler, the rogue hustler archetype.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I'm kind of picturing him as like a bit of a wheeler and dealer, especially with water resources. Not necessarily having any particular wealth himself, but maybe sort of being either a lackey or a fence or a go-between guy or something like that.
Have you read The Way of Kings?
I have read the first book and part of the second.
I'm almost imagining kind of your role, what you're kind of talking about right now, kind of as a fencer and like how you're making deals between people. I'm seeing you as kind of like, I don't know if you read Mistborn either, as kind of like a Kelsier mixed with like the slaver from The Way of Kings. Like he's a little dirty, but like he is suave and kind of like a part of like the system, the middleman, the important middleman when it comes to like spreading out resources and selling them.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, so he's kind of a bit of a champion of the people in a way that, like, a lot of the have-nots kind of know that he helps them get water they would otherwise not get, maybe in a way, as well as that's kind of what I go towards when you're suggesting that with Kelsier. Yeah.
I love the idea of him being a have and a have-not. Like he's in both bodies.
That's basically it. Yeah. So that was kind of the first thing, and I originally imagined him as just kind of a bit of a gambler and a bit of a drifter, I suppose. But now that I'm sort of fleshing it out and I'm scrolling through your backgrounds here, I see the Reaper background, which is kind of a sub-unit of the Peacekeepers, who are like the special agents about the weird shit. Am I reading that right?
Yeah,
that might be an interesting.
They're hunters and enforcers of the supernatural. So when I originally came up with the Reaper idea, I don't know if you've ever seen the TV series Supernatural, but it's very heavily based off of that. Like this idea that there are people operating that other people don't like, and dealing with the stuff that other people shouldn't know about. Like it keeps the world spinning that these guys operate in the dark, essentially.
Yeah. So I don't know if that's too strongly at odds with what I said so far about the wheeling and dealing side of things, but I can see how it could be an interesting pairing, and especially an interesting dynamic with Jeff's character, maybe. And and that sort of walking the line between, and those hard moral decisions, you know, between getting people water, for example, or securing a deal, you know, so that a part of the town doesn't just go without water for the next week or month or whatever, versus some of the weird gnarly shit that, you know, he knows he has to keep from people.
Yeah, the idea that you're getting your hands dirty while protecting the people, but at the same time it's all a cover for the real stuff you do. I think that's very interesting. Yeah. Do you know if you want what kind of race you are? Are you going to be a Providencer as well?
So I was thinking a Providencer, but I like the idea that he's got some native blood in him. Just so basically mechanically he'll be a Providencer, but I like that sort of little sliver of interest there as well, which could come up. Yeah, if that's acceptable.
No, for sure. I like that a lot. You would need to think about what tribe, like, kind of you have some blood from, because I will play off of that. So you think about that. You include that in your 3 points. Which tribe you have, like, your half and half from? And do you want to be from Central Providence, Northern, or Southern?
I was thinking maybe Southern, because that's where more of the weird shit either happens or is more commonplace. Or
okay. So if you were from Southern Providence, we could talk about this individually, actually, one-on-one. There are some tribes that you would have less of a chance of being a part of or having half blood from being Southern Providence. So we could talk about that, though, you and me, later on in PMs. So go ahead and start filling in your 3 points then for your character. The 3 things that kind of like distinguish you and show how you operate and mingle with the world, who you are, essentially, that other people would notice or know about. And great. So let's see. So we've kind of got rough ideas. Cory, have you thought about the background yet? Have you seen any that have caught your eye?
Oh, yeah. There's one in here. It's the one with like the oh gosh, where is it? Is the background the one where there's like the where you made the pact with like the
with the devil, the pact maker? Yeah,
the pact maker. Yeah. So that would be the one that I picked. So like, I'm not sure exactly what the incident is that set him off on his kind of like destroying and ripping spirits out of people kind of thing, but he makes the pact in order to gain the power, in order to remove the spirits, and so that's kind of like his life's mission, I guess, like purpose, really.
Okay. You and I will have to talk then about that to come up with a mechanic for how this works for pulling the spirits out and releasing them. But yeah, I like that a lot. The pact maker that you've essentially, because this is very untribesman too, like untribal, because they know better than to make deals with the devil essentially. But you have broken that rule, that sacred rule, as a Beal shaman, well, with shamanish blood, and you've made that deal. I like that a lot. Okay. All right. Cool. So you guys are filling that out now. So let's go ahead and go down to our starting location. So we've decided it's in the border between Northern and Southern Providence. Let's give it a name. What is this place called? So generally, names of towns in Providence, in the West in general, usually, weirdly enough, had to do with like virtues and stuff. Like you have like, or there were like play on words, like jokes. For example, Tombstone, what I talked about earlier, was from this guy, this prospector, who wandered off into the desert to find gold, and they said all he was going to find was his tombstone, and so he named the town where he found gold Tombstone because of that. So stuff like that. For example, in the north there was Crow's Gulch, and that was because it existed right on the edge of this like canyon, this gulch, that a man was led there by a crow, so he called it Crow's Gulch. You have cities like Abundance. There's a place called Harmony and New Harmony, stuff like that. So what do you guys think about a town name?
What about High Hope?
High Hope. Okay. Thoughts about High Hope or other names?
Certainly not married to it.
Yeah, I'm good with that. If something else pops into my brain, I'll throw it out there. But for now, that works for me.
Okay. For now, then we can technically name it High Hope, and if you guys come with another name, we can always change it. So what is High Hope like? We know we know that it's an area that straddles. It's a place that straddles the area between law and chaos. That there are mafia-style families and peacekeepers fighting over control of this town. We know that it does not have an oasis, which is very important.
I was just gonna say that was the one thing I was gonna mention, is that I really like the idea of this place not having its own water supply that it has to import to make it to survive.
So I guess that would mean there would have to be some other like major resource then to like kind of make the town have
Yeah,
kind
to
of make
justify it
sense.
existing. Yeah.
Yeah. So what resource does it have then? What
Why
is the
it
what?
here? Yeah.
Why is it here of all places? Why is High Hope here? We could go with the stereotypical answer of that there's a gold or a silver mine nearby, but I don't feel entirely satisfied by that.
Could it be like the birthplace or some significant place to do with like a figure from recent history or something like that?
Like a tourist attraction in like a weird way.
Yeah, maybe.
It could be that maybe there's no water, but the ground is like the soil is very fertile, so like they can bring water there in order to produce like food, but like they still are dependent on that.
It could even be like a really good hunting ground. That's how Sin City exploded out of nowhere, because it was really good for buffalo hunting. So it could even be something like that too.
Yeah, I mean, it might not work because I think there's a degree to which like people like will. There's a point at which stubbornness no longer becomes a justification, and I don't know if it's that far gone. But I kind of even like the idea, like maybe it was like a fortress when they were first expanding northward, like they built a fort there or something, and people lived there to guard it. And like it's not used for that anymore because they've expanded past it, but people just like live there out of spite. Like my family's always lived here. We're living here. That's what we do. We make it work here. This is kind of almost like a
Yeah.
the human hubris of living in the desert of like, no, this is our home. It's always been our home. We're staying here, kind of thing.
Yeah, and so it's more like old money there than anything actually still prosperous, maybe.
The only thing that could be keeping it afloat too is the fact that it's on a major trade route for water. So the caravans have to stop here to resupply for like food for the horses and stuff.
And it could be that if it was a fortress, that it could have some kind of like geographical significance. So like it's in the middle of some kind of pass, so it was important to defend the position, something like that.
Yeah, like a tactical positioning, and it's kind of become this hub where the only way to get up north is to go through the pass, and if you're going to go through the pass, then you got to stop in High Hope. So there's kind of this like, I like what Kiel said too, of this kind of like old dog like regime of the old money, people who have kind of built up a huge boom in business off of like the success of the past, and that's not necessarily as relevant anymore, but they've kind of built up these kind of personal resources. So there's kind of, I imagine, a huge like economic disparity of like you have these people who have ended up here through other means. They've traveled up north but couldn't make it all the way north, or vice versa. They tried to get out of the north but couldn't make it for far enough down south. So you kind of have this mixture of like old families who have been there for generations, who have like this crazy wealth, and then like just the bottom of the barrel trying to barely scrape by with what they can, kind of all in one place. Kind of still survives as a trade route.
I like that idea. I like the idea that it's old money, that there are these old families. This used to be the frontier. That it kind of overlooks this past, that all the major trade wagons kind of came through here. It used to be an area where like the tribes would like kind of like sit up on like the top and pepper them with arrows until they built this fort here. And so now that the fort's here, now that old monies are established in this area, they don't want to leave. It's kind of like a legacy, like a heritage type thing where we stay here. It's still a major trade route, but like they don't produce anything. It's just like all of their money comes from import and location. Okay. Okay. So, what do you think that tribal relations would be like in this town?
I'd imagine that the historical strategic significance of when it was used as a fortress was probably against the natives, right? In terms of who the Providences were fighting for the conflict. So I think it's like built on bad blood, and it probably stands as a symbol of something negative.
Yeah, I was gonna say it probably even would kind of go down like social class lines. Like maybe these old families are like heavily prejudiced against them because it's kind of always been in their family to be that way. But the kind of younger blood, who have less resources, are probably more accepting of like the native tribes. So it's like they don't have much to do here because the older families like are the ones with the resources and they don't interact with them much. So I imagine that the relationships are very like tenuous, and it would be much more out of like desperation that like the lower class people would like ally with the natives to get by, as a means of survival.
Yeah, I like that. Old money is still discriminating. They're still like super prejudiced against like the tribes, whereas the young blood is more open to discourse and to talking things out, and trying to figure out a solution for everyone, basically. Okay, I'm getting a really good idea of the town right now, of kind of like what we're looking to play in. So my last question for this town then that I want you guys to consider is how well developed is it? Obviously, a town that's going to survive has to have a blacksmith, so that's going to be there. But like, are there banks? Are there water trading outposts? Do we have like a tannery? Are there a livery and stables? Like, how are there bordellos? That's important because that only exists on towns that are booming, that have that kind of number one, influx of people, but number two, the money to pay for it. So, what do you guys think? Is it on the decline? Is it on the? Is it going up? Is it just stagnant? What are we looking at?
I kind of imagine that it's got all of those things, and they're all owned by the people with the old money, right? Like that's part of how they keep themselves ticking over, like through income from selling drinks and pleasurable company and gambling, as well as the trading side of things. Is kind of how I imagine it. It's kind of, I don't necessarily see it as declining, but it's kind of limping on a lot more than it used to. That's kind of how I imagine it.
Yeah, I imagine it's just like kind of going off of what Kiel said, like this weird mixture of like expanding and declining, almost like at the same time. Like you have like the rich get rich, the poor get poor kind of thing, where it's like you have these people who are in control of everything and they're able to take advantage of their control to continue spreading their influence and gaining more because they own everything. But, the people who don't have any ownership of it, they're trying to get by, and there's just not the resources to do it. It's kind of this mixture, this dichotomy of pushing upwards and downwards at the same time.
Okay. Cool. Yeah, I like that a lot. I like that everything is owned by the old money, and everybody else who's kind of not old money, that's moved in recent years or has been here just not quite as long, works for them, everybody. For one of the families, I like the idea that there are probably like a couple of big families that are all trying to buy the other out of this town. I really like.
It'll make it really interesting too, seeing like playing as a peacekeeper, because so money and like influence will have so much power. I imagine
I was
that
about to
it's, like,
say.
it's probably very, very common to get bribed as a peacekeeper here.
I almost guarantee that each family has like a peacekeeper they've hired as like a private investigator, who is like that person is like their lapdog almost in a weird way, but like they solve problems for the family to the family's benefit. I like that a lot. I like this idea that there are like family deputies in a weird way.
Yeah, that's cool. That really plays into the vigilante side of things. And speaking of Mistborn earlier, Tyler, that makes me think of the rich houses or the noble families.
Yeah, the noble houses.
Mistborn,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of the vibe I'm getting. I'm getting a weird Western, like like a Luthadel, like a Western Luthadel in a weird way, kind of feeling right now. Okay. All right, cool. I love it. Anything else to add?
I love just a little throwaway thing.
No, you go.
Yeah, that's right. It's just for the town. Just a funny thought, like the only building or premises in town that's not owned by old money is like the sheriff's station or the law house or whatever. But that's only in name, right? Like,
yeah, I dig that. Like the only people who have the money to actually stay independent are the peacekeepers, because they're the law and they have to operate independent of other people, or else the sheriff's station will probably be owned by somebody.
Yeah. I was gonna say they probably have the money to stay independent in air quotes by taking so much bribes from the old families to enforce their own will. So it's like, we'll let you keep your like legal governing body name,
and you can do that to the poor people. but
Dude,
we get to
that.
do what we want.
I love the idea that everybody is bribing the sheriff, so he's just loaded. Like he has so much money just for turning a blind eye from all these families.
Like the best saddles, a fucking golden gun.
Oh my gosh, guys, I'm getting like a Godfather like type feeling for this game right now, mixed with like a Hang 'em High Clint Eastwood, mixed with like a Mistborn because of the noble houses and stuff. Like this is actually super cool. I love this city already. Because there is no hope. It's called High Hope, but nobody has any hope in the city.
Exactly.
It's like the most stuck in its sort of own weird environment that you could get. Like there's nowhere it can go from here. It's like not under the iron fist of these like ruling families. It's a nice twist of irony, which I think is the best of those sorts of names, that they kind of say the opposite of what they are.
Yeah, I love that kind.
I love it.
And like, yeah, just one of their cornerstones for these wealthy folks would be the fact that it is, you have to go through here if you're wanting to go north, right, or come through south, more or less. And even though they don't produce their own water, like they can tighten their stranglehold by charging exorbitant amounts for water, because every traveler is going to need it on the way north or south. Like, they've got a pretty good.
So I imagine like gives them like their own way of like kind of keeping this like lower class from like doing anything. Is like, if you have somebody who's trying to like run north to escape the law or like run south to escape the chaos, like they won't have enough water to get from north all the way down to the central, so they're going to have to stop and buy water here. And if they can't, they're going to be priced into getting some job to help the ruling family. So they kind of like they can like use their influence to keep people there and like prevent people going north.
People get
south.
Stuck in
kind of like a weird gravity well. Yeah,
like how that's one of those weird push-pull things. Like, our population grows every year despite however many people dying. Is there a train line that goes right through the town?
I would think not, because that's how they get people stuck there. So like so also trains in Providence they're in a relatively new technology. They have access to them, and they've built kind of like a way to get from the north to south and east to west very quickly. But these kind of out of the way towns, like you said, it's on like kind of the northern between the north and the central border. That would probably not have a train going to it yet. Maybe there would be plans to. I'm sure that the families would be bribing the crap out of the train companies to bring them over here so that they can own the train stop. So one of them can own it. Imagine how rich that one person would become.
Yeah. I was just going to say, if we wanted to kind of keep the duality of it, maybe there's a track that comes and this is the last stop going north. Like this is like the end of the train line. So like the only way to like take a train south is to like come from the north down to this town and then buy a ticket, which they can probably crazy price people out of and force them into bad deals on because they own the stop.
Exactly.
Or we can have
or people
not a stop. Yeah. Either way.
Or people going north. Yeah, like they've got to go and use a caravan from now, for the rest of their journey. So
they get off the last train stop going north, and then the only way to go further is to buy supplies and go out, which they might not be able to afford. Then they get sucked in,
Okay.
It's a hell of a turn.
Okay, interesting. I'll think about that one. I like that idea. I like it a lot that it's like the last stop to get to the north, like before you have to get a wagon and go. But at the same time, I like the idea that it's not quite built yet, so they're still fighting over it. What is more interesting to you guys?
Between what?
Between the train stop already being built, so that they like people come up here to go north, and then they get here and they find out just how expensive everything is, so they can't, or that it's part of a caravan route, so people still get stuck here because of the crazy prices. But the train stop is being built, so the families are fighting over control of it right now, trying to buy each other out essentially on the train stop. I'm
kind of leaning towards it being done already.
Maybe it's like just been finished.
I was just gonna say, if we wanted a middle ground between those, maybe it's done, but it's not like. Maybe there's like about to be an auction to like hold to see which family is going to buy it up. And they're trying to get in with people to try to see who's going to own it.
That sounds perfect.
Like this.
Sucked into.
So it's done, but like it's not owned yet. And each family wants the profit that comes from owning the train station because it's going to be a huge.
There's going to be so much underhanded backstabbing that is going on.
Yeah,
dude, I feel like
I love it.
Have you guys played Diplomacy ever? Or I mean, I guess even Risk. Like you make deals with people in Risk. Like, oh yeah, we're allies, and then you backstab each other. This is what I'm feeling right now. Like okay, we're working together against those two, but secretly this guy on the side has made a deal with the other two to crush this one person. But they made a deal to crush him once they've crushed the fourth person. So it's like all of these backhanded politics going on. I love it. Okay.
And that's the kind of shit, those kind of meetings and deals are the kind of shit that Eddie gets himself mixed up in.
Yeah. Yeah, I love it. That's super cool. Okay, cool. Okay, I love this city. I love this town. Let's move on to the next section then. We're doing mysteries and intrigues now. So essentially, what this is going to be is I want each of you to suggest one big personal question for your character, like a big personal intrigue. If you look at the previous characters, you'll see kind of some of the ideas that they have. They've both added onto the world with their question and imposed an idea of something that's kind of happened, but they've also kind of created a central tension that applied to their character. So what are some of those things that you guys like to see? Go ahead and read through those real quickly and then tell me.
Wait, which section?
It's mysteries and intrigues. It's like on the third page, I think.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, third page.
So, I think for me, it's definitely I'm kind of getting this image of like I've just been moved up here. Like I used to be a peacekeeper in like more like straight central Providence. And like I've been transferred up to this area, perhaps as like a test, like approved to see if you're worth promoting, but also it might have been to get rid of him, kind of ambiguous. But like he hasn't been bought out yet, but there's like certainty that there's going to be conflict around that. So kind of like, can I even enforce the actual law in a place like this? Is it even possible to like uphold justice when justice is in everyone's pockets and they're buying it out?
I love that line. Can I uphold justice if justice is in everyone else's pockets? Okay, I love that a lot. Actually, that line is probably actually become a key line in Providence. It's going to be part of some section like a header. Yeah, that's cool, dude. I dig that line. That's sweet. All right, Cory or Kiel?
I'm trying to think. The first thing that comes to mind for me is I'm not sure if it's the one I'll go with, but why do these wealthy old bigots not seem to hang me out to dry for my native heritage? Like they fucking hate them, right? I don't know. That's the first one that came to mind. I think there's probably something a bit more.
So maybe something like kind of like, what are they using me for? Like, what piece am I playing?
Yeah.
Actually?
Yeah, basically, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say too, if you're kind of this like middle point between like the rich class and the poor class, that it's probably like they keep you around for a reason. Like you're a pawn in their chess game in some capacity. So,
dude, if we're playing that framed game, what if you have run out of worth? Like what was your worth to begin with now that you're gone?
Yeah. Yeah, cool. I dig it.
yeah, like you've gotten all this goodwill, and then suddenly the goodwill is like starting to fall off, and it's like, wait, first of all, why did I have it, and now why is it suddenly gone?
Is that good for you, Kiel?
Yeah, that'd be a good one to explore for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I dig it. I dig. I'm interested to find out what they were using for beyond actually being a middleman. Like, what were you unwittingly a part of?
Yeah, I love that. It would be a hell of a tangled web that he was involved in. So, I mean, and as savvy as he was, yeah, he obviously couldn't see everything. And that's a good point for, leading into the framing for him personally, at least.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, cool. I dig it. Cory, you got anything for me?
Maybe almost the question: is there like a grander or like higher purpose to what's going on in the town? Like, is there some kind of ultimate goal that the families or that the people are trying to work towards, or is it literally just control and wealth? Like maybe there's, I don't know, they're trying to develop some kind of new technology, or they're trying to develop their own faction or army, or they're trying to do some kind of like some spiritual thing that they learned from the South. Like that maybe something more is going on besides just control. I'm not sure if that fits, but
No, that works perfectly. Yeah, so I mean, it's gonna be interesting because it's gonna cause a weird dichotomy between your character and Kiel's, because you're interested in figuring out what's the end goal. Kiel's interested in figuring out what was his purpose. So it's gonna be interesting. I mean, that'll definitely tie you guys together and trying to figure this out. Okay, and then the last one I have to get is just from Dan. All right, cool. So the last thing that we have to go over is themes. What kind of themes do you guys want to see in this game? It could be stuff like revenge. Revenge is a theme. Think of this as like story archetypes. What kind of archetypes would you like to see? You want to see you want to see like the typical Western tropes, like a horse chase or like a wagon chase. Like what kind of stuff would you themes do you want to see played on in this story?
Going on the Kelsier talk earlier, maybe grand sacrifice.
I'm going to put the Christ figure in there. I put the Christ figure in there, kind of like the willing to die, or like to give up everything for the sake of good, essentially. Or actually, do you know what? I'll just put Christ figure, Kelsier.
Yeah, which actually, even on a less grand scale, I think works with my character, because he's kind of got that sort of Men in Black angle with, you know, he deals with the shit that nobody should know about, and, you know, he sacrifices part of his own personal life to keep that secret and that kind of thing. Yeah,
I'd almost say that he sacrifices most of his personal life, because think about it, like the things that you've seen and the fact that those things have seen you and that you've been taking because like as weird as it probably is to you, knowing what you know that monsters are kind of like family to each other, essentially, in a weird way. Like they all come from the same place. They all come from the below. So the fact that you're killing off family to them, that's like, that'll come back to bite you. So you really can't have many relations if you want to keep people safe.
Yeah, true. Damn.
Cory or Jeff?
Yeah, I guess maybe like personal motivation versus obligation. It seems like there's lots of rigid rule sets, so that would probably be a reoccurring thing, is having to either go against your obligations and suffer the consequences, or disregard your personal motivation in order to fulfill your responsibility.
So your character is very much so a personal motivation type person then, because he is ignoring a lot of real obligations. I like it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know if Jeff is quite back yet. Well, let's see. I'll add one to the list for themes. I think a theme that I want to see kind of come up in this game is up to what point, or so I guess what would this be? Morality and the extensions of the law. Like, up to what point can you take the law into your own hands before you become a criminal?
Yeah, that works.
Okay. And then we'll just wait for Jeff to get back and he can add one, and then I'll have Dan add one himself too. Man, I'm liking this, guys. What are you guys thinking so far? How are you feeling?
Yeah, stoked, man. Pretty excited. As Jeff said in the chat, we've built a nice organic reason to work with each other off the bat. I think our characters, this place has secrets and we all need answers. That's right, man.
I love what Jeff said earlier in the chat. This place sucks so much. I love it.
Exactly.
Jeff might be getting a little bit of the Carney fever. He's turning into a masochist just like they are.
I always have been. I don't know what you're talking about.
I guess fair enough. You've thrown yourself into some pretty crappy situations in my games before. So, Jeff, so what theme would you like to see? Or a story archetype? What are you looking for the story?
I'm definitely interested in kind of like the social class clash. We have this kind of like massively stratified place where you have this like ultra rich and ultra poor. Cory got me in the chat there. So that's really interesting to me. As far as like general stuff. I'd like to see I want to see a duel somewhere too. Like I want that to be something that, like, for some reason that like duels, like shootout duels happen here too.
So like a duel and the social implications of what that means. Like
Yeah.
yeah, okay.
Like why is that a thing that happens here? And like what purpose does it serve?
There's actually a duelist tournament in my setting that's called the Swiftest Draw, the Swiftest Draw tournament. That like it's a shoot to kill tournament that like you have to win a certain number of duels to even be considered for a year to go. But it's like incredibly prestigious. So I like the idea that one of those that being an old town and being like significantly important to this area, that like maybe dueling is looked upon with kind of this competitive flair. That lots of people participate, except for the old blood, of course, because if they die, they lose all their money, and that's not going to happen. But they have designated duelists who go and solve their problems for them with other people.
Yeah,
So,
like it almost might take place kind of like how it did in America for a while, where it's like it's kind of these like weird honor duels, but instead of like them, they have like their champion in a way, like a king would have their champion, like that these families have like these people that like aren't part of the family that they like hire as like problem mediators, aka duelists. So it's like if one family offends another, there needs to be some public display of repudiation for that, and then they like have their peons duel and kill each other.
yeah,
To, like satisfy their honor.
yeah, I love that. That's really cool. I love this idea actually that that duels are actually it's like high society in a weird way. It's high society of the West. That these duels take on a much broader meaning than just one person killing another. Cool. Like big, I love the idea that like big like disputes are solved with a gunfight, like a duel, like the duel to the death. But small fights, like small disputes, are solved with like these show fighting, like the pugilists. They throw them in the ring. So they're designated like soft fighter and a hard fighter, like one to the death and one to like the knockout. So that's interesting. I could see how this clicks into place. Okay, so I'll have to talk to Dan to get his theme and to get his other stuff. But this is great, guys. I love what we've come up with. I think this is going to be an awesome, awesome campaign, mini campaign. Might extend into a campaign because we have so much material. If people want to do that, obviously. But yeah. So, are there any last things that anyone needs to add?
I think I'll just a few more things to flesh out in the doc afterwards. But yeah, I am super keen.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, we've got this this doc ready. You guys can come back and view this whenever you need to. Just save the link. So the last thing I have to do is assignments that because I want you guys to take part in building this town. So you know it as well as I know it. So is there anything that anybody feels particularly inclined towards building? And it won't be anything crazy. It'll probably just be like a small summary description along with important points about it.
I kind of and either you or the other people, if they don't want to, can shoot this down. I kind of almost like the idea of each of us like making one of these families and like what they're known for, so we can kind of like almost build the political climate against each other. I think that could be fun.
Like what part of the town does each family own? Who are they? Who are the members of the family?
What's their thing?
Where does their old blood come from, and what were they known for during the Frontier Wars? Like stuff like that. Like I like that a lot. You guys each have a family. That's cool. Okay,
Yeah, I'm down for that. Yeah.
Let's do that then. Let's give each of you guys a family. So I'm gonna expect each of you guys to work with me to build and develop one of these families. Who they are, what their deal is, what their industry is, what their goals might be, because I'm obviously going to play with that because it's going to be like you guys are going to build the basics and I'm going to do the advanced crap behind the screen. So yeah, let's do that. Let's each do a family. And I really like that. Sounds good to me. All right. If there are no other questions, let's go ahead and end the session 0. Let's roll out. So go ahead and do, final plug. Tell if you have a character name, tell us your character's name that you're going to be playing. If not, just say final plugs, whatever you want to. Cory, over to Kiel.
Yeah, well, it sounds like everything's gonna be good. I'm gonna be playing. I'm not sure on the name yet, but he's gonna be the Clockwork Brawler. Digging it. And then the family, I'm already seeing it here, but I'm thinking they're the Martell Dead Slingers. They're like kind of like they deal in arms and guns and all that, and backroom deals and everything. So that's kind of what to look forward to for the family there.
Okay, sweet. Kiel.
Yeah. Oh man, I'm so keen for this campaign. I'm Kiel. I'll give Tyler a link to my YouTube channel, so that's down below. And can't wait for the next couple of weeks when we get the first session in. And over the next couple of weeks, creating this family and finishing off some of this stuff with you. Yeah, this is awesome. Sinking my teeth into this. Cheers for having me, man.
Okay, on to Jeff.
Yep, I'm Jeff. I have a YouTube channel. It's called Counterbalance, where I run games and make some other stuff. I also do a podcast called The Dudes of Yore with Jeremy, Lilly, and Chad Nick. So be sure to check those out if you're so inclined. And yeah, I don't have a character name yet either. I'll have to sit on that one for a little bit. But this town that we've made is like super awesome, and I'm definitely very, very interested to see how it all plays out in the game.
Okay. Awesome, guys. Thank you, as always. There's one more player for anyone who missed it early on. It's Dan Schmehl. So he's going to be our 4th. I'll be working with him individually behind the scenes to get his info. And I am very excited, guys. I love this town. I love the dynamic we've already created here. It is perfect for the story we want to tell. And I am very much so looking forward to playing this game. So guys, thank you for tuning in. Anybody who watched the video, as always, feel free to like and subscribe if you enjoy this content and want to see more Providence in the Wild West. And as always, as I hope you find yourselves in your games on a roll. And we're heading now. Cory's mocking me.